Okay, so the Secretary of Defense just sat in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee and said the Iran war cost $25 billion. $25 billion. Senator Blumenthal looked at him and said, yeah, that's not even a quarter of the real number. And when he pushed back, Hegseth called the press the Pharisees and called Blumenthal a defeatist Democrat. That was the answer. Name calling. And right in the middle of it, Blumenthal asked one simple thing. Will you support the Major Richard Starr Act so wounded veterans stop getting their retirement pay docked? And what happened next, you really just have to see. Hit subscribe before we roll the clip so you don't miss the breakdown after.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today. I want to talk about the costs of war. The costs of war include caring for our veterans. We've had an estimate from Mr. Hurst yesterday that the cost to date in dollars for this war has been $25 billion, which I believe is well below the actual cost based on everything that I've heard, everything available to us in various kinds of settings, and I'm going to ask for a more accurate assessment. But we also know that about 400 service members have been wounded as a result of this war. When they retire, when they come home, their retirement pay will be docked dollar for dollar for every disability benefit dollar they receive. Secretary Hegseth, I'd like your commitment that you will support the Major Richard Starr Act that will eliminate this wounded warrior tax. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Tens of thousands of servicemen and women now are reduced in their retirement pay literally for every dollar of disability benefits they receive.
Well, I appreciate your focus on this issue, and I will tell you of the, you mentioned roughly 400 that have been injured. Thankfully, over 90% are returned to duty. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't have a residual challenge. And we're tracking that at point of injury to ensure that that is noted, even though they're returned to duty.
But what I'd like is your commitment that you will support the Major Richard Starr Act.
As I have said in the past to other organizations, we support the Richard Starr Act.
Thank you. On the issue of cost, Mr. Hurst, does that $25 billion estimate include all of the costs in terms of damage to our bases, the need to replace planes and munitions, and the costs of injuries to our servicemen and women?
Senator, so for the Milcon facilities replacement cost, that's probably the hardest thing to estimate right now because we don't know what our future posture is going to be or the future construction of those bases.
Well, you owe it to us. You're here to ask for appropriations.
Of course.
And I would like a more accurate estimate of what has been done that will require replacement and renovation, as well as the other costs. And I think $25 billion is probably less than half, maybe less than a quarter of the total cost of war, which is the reason why the supplemental request is much higher. So I think you owe it to the American people to give us the straight talk about what the costs have been. Mr. Secretary, I know you have characterized this war as an astonishing military success, to use your words yesterday. But the American people aren't buying it. And I know you feel the American people are seeing through the abstruse stuff that is thrown at them, but one point is irrefutable, which is America never succeeds in war unless the American people are behind it. And if what you're seeing as success now is winning, I would hate to see what losing looks like, because none of the shifting and contradictory objectives of the war so far have been achieved. Likewise, let me ask you, yesterday, the President said that Ukraine has been, quote, militarily defeated. I assume you don't agree with that assessment.
The negative nature in which you characterize the incredible and historic effort in Iran is part of the reason, Senator, why the American people view it the way they do. It's why I looked out at our press corps at the Pentagon and called them the Pharisees in the press. It's because they look for every problem.
Well, I'm asking you about
You look for
Ukraine.
every problem that
Do you believe
exists,
Ukraine
and you
has been
miss
militarily defeated?
you miss the
I would
plank.
submit, based on my 9 trips to Ukraine, that is a false narrative that the president's
We are
buying
2
from
months
Vladimir
into a
Putin. I
historic
hope that
military success in Iran, and
will
you want to call it a
dispute it
defeat. And it's
because
defeatist Democrats
it
like
is
you
the
that
people
cloud
of
the mind of the
Ukraine
American
who are
people
fighting
and
for their
would otherwise
survival,
fully support
right, no
preventing
help
Iran from having a
the
nuclear weapon.
administration, and they are bravely fighting our fight. And that is the reason that I'm pursuing the Russian sanctions bill, which is bipartisan, along with Senator Graham, and why I hope we will recognize our obligation to release that $400 million, which we've appropriated.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal.
Okay, so what you're looking at right now, this is the wounded warrior tax, and it's exactly as ugly as it sounds. If you're a service member who got hurt in combat, who earned a retirement, the government takes $1 of your retirement for every dollar of disability you receive. You bled for the country, and the country bills you back. Over 50,000 veterans are stuck in this loophole. The Major Richard Starr Act would end it. It's been bipartisan for years. And Hegseth's answer, when Blumenthal asked him point blank, we support it. That's it. No timeline, no plan. Meanwhile, his department is asking for hundreds of billions in supplemental funding. They can find money for everything except the people who actually got shot at. Now watch this exchange. Blumenthal pushes on the 25 billion number. Listen to how the comptroller answers. Or, again, how he tries not to. And here's where it gets, almost insulting. The article on screen lays it out. 25 billion is the number Hegseth's team gave Congress. Blumenthal asked the comptroller, does that include replacing the planes, the munitions, damage to our bases, medical care for the 400 wounded? And the answer was basically, we can't really estimate that yet. So they walked into an appropriations hearing, asking for more money, with a number they admit doesn't include most of the costs. Blumenthal said it might be less than a quarter of the real total. Nobody corrected him, because they couldn't. And this is the part. This right here, Hegseth doesn't answer the question. He calls the press the Pharisees. Watch. Okay, so this is the moment. Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, sworn in to give honest testimony, looks at Blumenthal and calls the Pentagon press corps the Pharisees. The Pharisees. Then he calls Blumenthal a defeatist Democrat who clouds the mind of the American people. That's his response to a senator asking for an honest cost estimate. Look, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. When the answer to a budget question is a Bible insult and a partisan attack, you've already lost the argument. You don't reach for that unless you don't have a number. And he didn't have a number. And watch how Blumenthal closes it. He doesn't take the bait. He just keeps going. Ukraine-Russia sanctions, the 400 million we appropriated. He stays on the receipts. And this is where it all ties together. Same hearing, same hour. Hegseth is asking Congress to write a massive check for an ongoing war with costs he won't fully disclose. And in the same conversation, the Major Richard Starr Act, the bill that would actually pay back wounded veterans, has been sitting around for years. He could have said, we'll work with you next week to get it done. He didn't. He said we support it and moved on. So the math is simple. Unlimited budget for the war, endless patience for contractors. But for the 400 who came home from this specific war wounded, a shrug and a slogan. That's the priority list. That's what the hearing actually showed you. If this breakdown helped you see what's actually going on, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs to see it. I'll see you in the next one.